Ladies and gentlemen, I am excited about tonight, not only because our senior partner, Pope Solis, was inducted as president of the PBA, but also because for the first time in many of gatherings of this nature, our guest of honor is not a senior citizen, or at least not one closely approaching the age of 20% discounts. My apologies to those who are enjoying their senior years. There are many of you tonight in this ballroom. We always rely on your wisdom. But from time to time, like tonight, we would like to be energized by insights from young achievers like our guest speaker. Our guest speaker completed his Bachelor of Science in Economics and International Relations at the London School of Economics in 1994. In the year 2000, he finished his Bachelor of Laws at the University of the Philippines, where he is a member of the Order of the Purple Feather Honor Society. In 2003, he completed his Master of Laws at Harvard University after taking a break from law practice at Accra Law. In 2004, our guest speaker was elected member of the House of Representatives for the Long District of Aurora Province, where he continues to serve on his third straight term of office. Presently, he is the chairman of the Committee on Higher and Technical Education. Our speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is the recipient of the 10 Outstanding Young Men Award for 2010 for his outstanding performance and achievements as a legislator. Quiet and efficient worker, our guest speaker is the author of laws, so many to mention, but of course notable among them is the expanded Senior Citizens Act of 2010, which exempts the sale of goods and services to senior citizens from the expanded value-added tax to enable them to enjoy the full 20% discount rate. And more famously now, of course, the Aurora Special Economic Zone Act, which promotes development not only in the province of Aurora, which promotes development also in the northern eastern provinces of the country. Without prejudice to the pending litigation on this matter, this law has provided jobs to the residents of these areas, increased their productivity and income, thereby improving the quality of their living conditions. Our guest of honor, ladies and gentlemen, is a loyal husband to Tutsi Chaus and is a doting father to 3 cute children. Like me, our guest speaker is older than Manny Pacquiao by 10 years and therefore qualified to be Vice President of this country by 2016. Our speaker tonight is one of ours, a member of this organization for many years. One we will most likely address Senator in 2013. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give an energetic welcome to the distinguished gentleman from Aurora, Congressman Juan Angara.
Thank you very much. Let's all take our seats. Thank you for that welcome. To our distinguished guests, President of Table, of course our outgoing President, Marites Isingo, to our incoming President, Ronald Olivar Tito Pope Solis. Of course, allow me to greet our legal luminaries and present here tonight, the Honorable Justice of the Court of Appeals, Justice De Leon, RTC Judge Onqueco, RTC Judge Castillo Marigonen, to President George Sarmiento of PAGCOR, to Attorney Abilino Cruz Maynino, the President of the ASEAN Law Association, to Ms. Eni Hartati, the Minister Counselor of the Indonesian Embassy, to COMELEC Commissioners Florentino Boituason, Manolo Gorospe, Noli Barcelona, to former Ombudsman Sonny Marcelo, former POEA Administrator Ray Regalado, former Congressman Roy Lopez Ocagosos, Yusek Juju Lutilla, Deputy Ombudsman Vic Fernandez, napakarami kong babatiin, past presidents, of course, Teresita Cruz Sison, President Carlos Platon, former President Fruto, former Presidents Belicaria, De La Cuesta, Hector Martinez, Boy Lasatin. Of course, to our guest here, my good friend King Reno, a wonderful singer. We missed out on your songs tonight. To my contemporary at UP Law, Ade Fajardo. To our idol in the legal profession in our fraternity, Rodel Cruz. To my sis, Tina Tantrico. I come to speak before you at an opportune time, as alluded to by my good friend Ade. Although I have not received a copy of the complaint, I've been told that a case has been filed against me and my father, Senator Angara, and the governor. So thus I will be needing a good lawyer. So with the governor and the senator, pwede ba dito yung 3 for 1? At mabuti kung may architect na rin dito kasi we fired our previous architect at the Freeport. At any rate, I have not appeared in court since 2001. Baka madisgrasya tayo if we take on our own defense. Joke lang po, but for veteran politicians like my father, nuisance suits are a dime a dozen. They are hazards of the trade. As for any lawyer who is brave enough to get a politician as a client, I have only one word of advice for you, and that is to get paid in advance. Kasi, pag natalo sa eleksyon, pag natalo sa kaso, patay na po. But seriously, it is a signal honor to be here before you tonight as your guest speaker. It has been said that the PBA is one of, if not the most prestigious lawyers group around. Certainly, it is the oldest. My father proudly served you as president in the 1970s. And as I read through the roster of your past presidents and members and incorporators, it is a who's who of the legal profession. It is a walk through history, the corridors of history of the legal profession. We have justices of the Supreme Court, not mere justices, but justices like J.B. Reyes, Jose Abad Santos, who are considered heroes of young lawyers and heroes of young Filipinos. The equivalent of Justice Holmes or Brandeis or Frankfurter. We have senators of the Republic, not ordinary senators, but senators like Lorenzo Tanyada, the longest-serving senator of the Republic. Congressmen, members of the cabinet, heads of government agencies, highly respected practitioners whose names are household names in our profession, the so-called white shoe firms. These names resonate in the worlds of business, in the world of our legal profession. So to be here before you is indeed an honor. I am not exaggerating when I say I am walking with greatness. The last time I attended a PBA function was 10 years ago. I had to pay for my own dinner. It was in that hall upstairs. I was a young lawyer at Accra, and I knew that after the dinner I would have to go back to Accra to work on some pleadings. But as I see my former bosses at Accra now, I am relieved that tonight I will be going home to see my wife and not to the Accra law office. Pero bilib po ako sa mga abogado. I know how hard it is to work. I only practiced for 1.5 years at Accra Law, but it felt like 5 or 10 years. Lawyers have played a large part in our country's history for over a century now. The first president of our Philippine Commonwealth is a native of my town, Baler. Now Aurora, formerly Tayabas and Quezon. I'm talking about Manuel Luis Quezon. He was a bar-top notcher, a noted lawyer, a fiscal. Ano pong ginawa niya nung siya'y presidente? Inamend niya yung Constitution para makaserve siya ng pangatlong term. Matinik talagang abogado. Since Quezon, most of the other presidents in that period of our history were lawyers. Sergio Osmeña, Manuel Rojas, Elpidio Quirino, Jose Laurel, Carlos Garcia, Diosdado Macapagal Jr., Ferdinand Marcos. Pati mga vice presidents po natin, some of the most famous lawyers of their time. Again, Osmeña, Jerry Rojas, Manny Pelaez, Arturo Tolentino, now Jejomar Binay. Si Ferdinand Marcos, just like Quezon, also used his mastery of the law to not only amend the Constitution, but to create a whole new Constitution. Being arguably the smartest lawyer of the illustrious names I just enumerated, he served the longest as our president. Matinik talaga, mas matinik siya kay Manuel Quezon. But since 1986, lawyers seem to have fallen out of favor in the political world. I took a look at our past elections. In the first election post-martial law in 1992, the lawyers, Miriam Defensor Santiago, Doy Laurel, and Jovi Salonga, lost to the General and Defense Secretary Fidel Ramos. In the vice presidential race, the lawyers, Chief Justice Fernan, and lawyer Senator Nen Pimentel lost to former actor Era Estrada. In 1998, lawyer Raul Roco placed third to President Era. A lawyer I know well named Ed Angara was a distant second to Vice President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Fast forward to 2004, Raul Roco was again the only lawyer candidate, losing to GMA or to FPJ, depending on how history will see that election. In 2004, it's notable that there wasn't even a lawyer in the running for vice president. Fast forward to 2010, the last elections, and Pinoy beat out lawyers Gibo Teodoro and Dick Gordon. But the victory of Vice President Binay reversed the trend for lawyers and could signal a shift back to the lawyers for better or for worse. Some might say it's for worse. But how does one explain this trend? Did the voters no longer trust lawyers to run the country? Perhaps the opening up of new media post-1986 opened up political office to non-lawyers. Yung mga sikat na abogado ngayon, si Virgilio Garceliano, Lintang Ledol, at Celso de Los Angeles. Seriously, looking forward, what role can lawyers hope to play in national development? There is a government think tank called the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, or PIDS, which points out that we, in the Philippines, have been less successful at eradicating poverty and creating jobs and wealth in the last few decades than our neighbors in Southeast Asia. Yung average per capita income or per capita GDP of the Philippines is $1,300. In Singapore and Hong Kong, it's $30,000. Out of 100 families in the Philippines, 26 are considered poor. They live on less than 55 pesos a day. In Malaysia, there are less than 2. In Vietnam, there are only 13. They have been making great strides. Why? Because they invest in education, they invest in science and technology, they invest in agriculture, and they invest in their people in general. Lawyers and activists like to demand recognition of civil and political rights, but let us not forget the equal importance of socio-economic rights as well. According to the economists at the PIDS Institute, the reason why we lag behind are a lack of entrepreneurship, the fact that the few moneyed people don't put their stakes in the economy, because of poor infrastructure, because of poor institutions, and because of red tape. Our new president, Pope Solis, in his wonderful speech, spoke of the huge potentials of the ICT industry, and he knows of what he speaks, having served as NTC Commissioner and Chairman. The goal of the industry is to create 1.6 million new jobs by 2016, but this is an optimistic goal which is contingent upon a few factors. The problems, as I see it, are threefold. Number one, there is an image problem. Pag pumunta po kayo sa kolehiyo, sa mga probinsya, at tinanong nyo, sino sa inyo ang gusto magtrabaho sa BPO industry? Wala pong magtataas ng kamay. Bakit po? Ang akala po nila ang BPO industry, call center lang po. And statistics show that the average career of a call center employee is only 4 years because it's a dead-end job for them. But the truth is, the BPO industry is only half. Half of the BPO industry is the call center industry. The other half is value-added services, as mentioned by our good president. We have accountants, we have nurses, we have lawyers working in the BPO industry. And maybe not a lot of you know here know that in the BPO industry, we have the biggest companies in the US working here. Household names like Morgan Stanley, Expedia, Google, all of these. And someone told me that the video games Angry Birds were partly created here in the Philippines by someone in the BPO industry. These are things that need to be disseminated as part of the image problem of the ICT industry. The second problem is the skills mismatch. I am chairman of the Committee on Higher and Technical Education. And the problem is, out of every 100 applicants, only 5 have the skills to be accepted in the BPO industry. So definitely, pag may kliyente po kayong eskwelahan, sabihin nyo, spread the word, spread the gospel about the potentials of the ICT industry. And the third problem, as I see it, is the infrastructure problem. I come from a poor province like Aurora. We cannot have BPOs there because we don't have the communications infrastructure. We don't have the telecoms lines. We don't even have electricity for the last 2 months in 2 towns because Napapor has run out of money to pay for the generating diesel. So these are the problems as I see it. If we do not invest in these things, then this industry will not meet the goal of 1.6 million jobs. But looking forward, perhaps it is also in the area of building institutions and cutting red tape that we as lawyers can make our mark. Perhaps the great men and women of the bar can come up with ways to facilitate transactions by the general public with government. We can make it easier, for instance, to put up a business or a corporation. We can make it easier to get basic documents like passports, NBI clearances. Lahat po kasi tayo dito may law firm at meron tayong resident messenger o fixer na nag-aayos sa mga ahensya ng gobyerno. Kaya hindi natin nararamdaman yung frustration ng mamamayan po natin. Perhaps your new president, who served as no less as the head of NBC, which dealt with the latest technology, can help to facilitate and make more efficient transactions in the government. Definitely the way our judiciary conducts business could really be made more efficient. I am told that some of the cases I handled while at Angara are still active. Ready na sa presentation of evidence, I admit to. Problema nga sa abogado, hindi daw efficient. We have no concept of opportunity cost, which is important. Kasi sa bagong ekonomiya, it's who can do things fastest, who can churn out goods the fastest. I think they are mistaken. Because we do have a concept of opportunity cost. We just call it by a different name. We call it billable hours. I am reminded of a graduation speech that the famous writer Art Buchwald gave before the graduating law class of Columbus Law School. The author, Art Buchwald, was regaling graduates of his time spent in Paris, France, where he covered a famous case where a man and a woman were accused of indecent behavior. They were accused of having sexual intercourse in a Volkswagen Beetle. It's a very small car. It's the first car of my father, incidentally. The defense lawyer put forward the defense that it was impossible to commit such a violation given the small size of the car. The judge was so confused that he could not decide on the matter, on that question of fact. So he decided to form a committee to study the matter. 6 months later, the committee delivered their verdict. It was possible to commit sexual intercourse in the car, but very difficult. It took them all of 6 months to come up with that very short determination. So these are the kind of stories which makes lawyers and judges the stuff of legend. Sabi ni Art Buchwald, kung yung 10 Commandments sinulat ng government lawyer yun, masyadong mabigat na ibaba sa Mount Sinai. Kailangan itali sa Rock of Gibraltar para mababa sa bundok. But seriously, lawyers should step up to the challenge of making our country competitive. If a lawyer named Lee Kuan Yew could do it in Singapore, a land with no water and few natural resources, why not the bright men and women of the PBA? I trust that I will hear the voice of the PBA on the great issues of the day, whether it's charter change, whether it is on the challenges brought by globalization, much in the way that Jose Santos and Jorge Vargas fought for self-rule and independence, much in the way that Claro M. Recto fought for nationalism and self-rule, much in the way that Lorenzo Tanyara fought for democracy and human rights, much in the way that Angara fought for education for the poor, much in the way that Nonon Cruz and Rodel Cruz fought for a modern military, or that Sonny Marcelo fought for a graft-free government. It would seem that in this age of globalization, the challenges ahead are daunting, and the world belongs to those who create, who innovate, who build quickly, cheaply, and efficiently. The lawyer will always have a role to play, and the potential is always there for us to be handmaids of progress. We have been around since time immemorial, after all, and not for nothing are we called the second oldest profession. which doesn't bear too many differences from the first. Joke lang po. In closing, I congratulate the Philippine Bar Association, the great men and women, past presidents, the new inductees, the officers, past President Marites Sison Go, incoming President Pope Solis. I am pleasantly surprised and honored to find myself a part of your standing committee for legislation, an honor which I humbly accept. Being with you, my friends and panieros and panieras tonight has been a great, great pleasure. And as lawyers, we like to throw around the Latin maxims like dura lex sed lex, rebus sic stantibus, res ipsa loquitur. But as we end the night, let us live by another Latin maxim, in vino veritas. Thank you and mabuhay po kayo lahat.
After hearing you talk, Mr. Congressman, I'm beginning to realize that calling you senator was not a mistake.